Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good evening, Uganda. Welcome to this edition of the Mighty Drive Show at just 8 minutes past the top of the hour of 7. This hotline show is always here every Monday. We start at 7 to 9 p.m. and we are always having conversations that we believe will make Uganda a better place. As we're speaking today, the third reading for the Coffee Amendment Bill 2024 will be tabled on Wednesday. That is in Parliament. Now, this highly contentious bill is set to be passed, but this comes at a time when the NRM chairperson, who was as the president, Mr. Museveni, has called for an NRM, in fact already called for an NRM caucus meeting where all legislators from the National Resistance Movement are gathering together in Kisozi Farm to ponder on this particular bill. In fact, last week you also had the president come out to elucidate more on this issue of the National Coffee Amendment Bill. He talks about the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and he paints a picture from where it came from up to today, and he highlights the issues as to why this particular entity was created. He also furthermore continues to show the impact that this particular entity has created, but also he gives reasons as to why it's time for it to be merged with the ministry. He also paints a picture of the money that has been wasted by these particular agencies, and he compares that money with the ministries, and he says if we were to merge these particular entities, would create one thing that is not only saving people's money, but also rationalizing the roles of the UCDA, but also empowering generally these particular agencies and ministries to work to create a better product, especially coffee. So he paints a picture for us, and he still stayed firm on this particular issue. We shall be painting a picture on this particular topic today, and of course, as they have gone for the NRM, what does it mean? And lastly, it feels like Ugandans have not yet agreed with the issue of, dissolving the National Coffee Development Authority. I think the MP and former leader of opposition, Mathias Mpuga, after a consultation with his people, he clarified that they are not welcoming, and that's just only his constituency. That many MPs are saying the people are not welcoming this proposal. And the question is, why do we continue to impart the things we want on the people who actually are the coffee growers, and they're actually not in love with the idea that has been put on paper? Also, in international news, tomorrow, the United States of America will be going down to the polls. They're going to be voting between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And this is a highly contentious election, and many people are on either side. We're not sure who best is going to be winning this particular election. I also have a couple of questions that you sent before, and I thank you for always doing that, sending your questions before the show. I have a question from Eric and a gentleman called Alan. Yes, you're called Amon, not Alan. You asked a particular issue around the elections of the United States of America, and you said I point that question to Honorable Pollar, which I will be posing that question to him. But as we're speaking tomorrow, America is going to go to the polls. What does this mean when the greatest country on the face of the earth is actually going to the polls? Is that affecting us in any way? I'm also hinting on the question that was earlier asked. Then also in Kenya, Professor Kithure Kindiki, he's now the deputy president. Now this comes at a time when Rigathi Gachagua was impeached by the parliament of that land, and they say he is not going to be, the deputy president. And remember, in the election, Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto were together as they were looking for this particular votes. In the past, we had also a fallout between Ruto and the then president Uhuru Kenyatta. What do we learn from the politics that is just near us in the East here? Does that really help us in any way? That and much more is what we're going to be talking about tonight. You can send in your questions at The Alternative Uganda, that is on Facebook, then on YouTube still at The Alternative Uganda. We are streaming on either platform. So if Facebook is not convenient for you, there are network issues, you can alternatively use our YouTube. Then also on X, we are at The Alternative Uganda and at Digitalk TV. Allow me to welcome our guests for the day. I'll start with a gentleman who's always here on my extreme end, Honorable Retired Major Pollar Awich. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, and greetings to our viewers.
How are you, sir? Are you okay?
I am very okay, and as I always keep saying, no news is good news. It's nothing quite eventful.
Yes.
I think the only eventful thing that could, as I said, the news is good, bad news, is I think lightning struck some people in Lamore and killed 14 in a church, moreover.
Yes.
So, but apart from that, nothing quite eventful. It's smooth, and no news is good news.
That's good. I'll wait for someone to blame the lightning on you. As NRM.
Of course, Congress will say that. Congress will say that. Actually, Charles Kazova was the one going to say Congress is a very nice gentleman, but Kazova would have said it.
Kazova, thank you so much for watching. This Kazova second question was actually to Kazova, but he's not around. I'll be giving it to his substitute. Counsel Gideon Tugume, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Good evening, viewers and listeners. I'm happy that I'm actually standing in for Kazova. I didn't know that. Yes. I always stand for myself where possible. So where I come in as a replacement, okay. Anyway, but
I don't know, but the moderator, I thought you would have said some views wanted actually another council. They thought I was taking a ride for free. So they said, let's have
because
another.
It has been wrong that I have not been invited to attend. I thought that by the time I was here, I almost spoke nothing. So that people maybe said, no, you don't need to come back. But I was happy that I was invited today to be with this big team. I love the team. These are my colleagues. We are almost in the same age. We have actually suffered a lot with the politics of this country. And some of them actually tested him. He tested Noboti's government. Him is testing President Museveni's government. It is only Gideon Tugume who is in between, and I have not. I'm waiting for my chance. But I thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here.
The 80-year-old man is still here, so you're still waiting. How is your community where you're coming from? How are your people? How are they living today?
My people are not living well. Actually, I come from down, the village is called the Mijera. Mijera village, it is in Kakuru Town Council, in Ruhama County, Tongamo district. And that village, there is a small, can say, what is it? Should I say it is what? Because that road was constructed by the whites in 1924, by 1924. So what would be...
100 years ago.
Yes, I don't know how many years. And it has never been done anymore. And these are the people that are giving NRM 99% of votes. And I was asking recently, there is no clean water, there is no electricity, the road is so bad, there is no people. So completely, I don't know whether it is ignored, whether it is very far away from the center of Paul and the colleagues. So people are not happy at all. When you just look at a person...
Which part of Ram is this? How far from Kitwe?
No. When you reach Kakuru Town Council, just the other part.
Not the side of Mugenyi, the husband of Mary.
The other one is a different part. This is just near here, Ruhama. Actually, it borders with the municipality. Very near. So, but the place is so bad, and I always think myself. And another place where I come from is Chadondo East. That is in the Kasanga Town Council. We really also have a road. The only road that is tarmacked is the one that that passes through Kasangati, that goes to Kayunga and Zerobwe. The rest of the place is so muddy. Right now, you can't even, I can't tell you.
You did vote well. I remember the president saying that you people don't vote well, so that's why.
But the other ones in Ruhama have been voting well. I've been
Ruhama
waiting to ask.
I've
been asking him, but why do they vote NRA?
99%. No, there are many things. Ruhama is not like here. When you go to vote by around 11, voting is done. It is done.
You vote Potro by 4 p.m. It's done.
It is, 4 is too far.
4 is too far.
By 11.
But did you get his point?
Yes,
by 11, it is done.
But
and if
have your voters got the point?
Yes,
no,
but
if
here in Kampala, the votes reach at 1
Yes,
p.m.
but if you delay in our place, if you delay to go in the line for voting, you find when they have already voted for
And
you.
that is the point.
I have heard of those stories. I have heard of those stories.
Meaning they vote from 7 by 9 a.m. They are sorted. They're doing their own
and
things.
you come, they say no.
That's not true.
No, but we have heard those
I
statements.
cannot lie.
That's
I
not
People
cannot
saying
lie.
they have voted for.
These are facts
I
with
profess Anglicanism.
That's
I cannot lie.
imagination.
personally.
No, I have had statements like that,
I
especially
can't-
in the previous election.
Yeah,
of
I can't
2021.
lie for sure.
Let me come to Joseph Ochieno. Sir, you are most welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And on the basis of the national motto that UPC got from Mwiri to the Republic of Uganda, for God and my country, and with Gideon confessing the Almighty in the name of Jesus, the Anglican, may this country be saved so that the people of Ruhama, who vote 99% for what they don't know, be liberated, delivered, and are able to reclaim the country so that at least the country can serve them for God and my country. But very quickly, I know it's a delight to be here. I had a very difficult afternoon. I had an incident with KCC, but public workers, but I think I've resolved that I'm not going to go into details. But so that was today's afternoon. But generally, it's always a pleasure to be here, but consider the fact that we have come from the other end of Kampala. The roads, man, the network, the transportation networks is absolutely madness. They are trying some few places, but it's madness. But I must say that while I send my condolences to the families that have lost their lives in lightning, Comrade Awich, for your information, part of my trade was public sector housing management. And as UPC, you know, for us, the people come first and safety. It is absolutely true that unless you, the lawyers, come back and tell us at the next whether or not that church had lightning conductor. If it did not, then we hold NRA administration fully and wholly responsible for the demise of our peoples. Meaning it's a regime that has got no regulatory framework in place, has got no capacity to establish systems and laws that are able to protect the lives and properties of the citizens of this country. It's basically as basic as that. So properties must have lightning conductors, but as I know, most of them don't. Now, granted, even if it were local authority challenges, which local authority will almost certainly be yes, Nyong, NRA, and maybe the leaders of the local authorities will be NRA. But even if it was a local authority led by UPC, like possibly one like a Molata, you know, the regulatory chiefs of local government, the buck still stops at State House.
Okay. Thank you so much. This gentleman is called Joseph Ochieno, Gideon Tugume, and Honorable Pollar. Which I have a question, Pollar, for you, Major. Eric Kabuye, he says, what do you think about the US election and how are we affected as Ugandans? Thank you, Digitalk, for serving. Thank you so much, Eric, for that particular question that you sent earlier on. It was to you, sir.
What I think about US elections is that first is a matter of the sovereignty of the Americans, but that America is now at a very tricky moment in their civilization, where some people think they're almost reaching decaying civilization. They have challenges all over the world, and therefore they're really in a critical situation. A friend was joking that to illustrate Americans' predicament, if you know the accent in English between America and Canada is similar. If you tell if you tell a Canadian, if you tell an American, or you mistake an American to be a Canadian, he will most likely say, "Oh yeah, we are brothers, we are brothers." But if you mistake a Canadian to be an American, no, I'm not. Who says I'm Canadian? Why? Because the Canadians think that when you're an American, you are a target. So you are safer being you're Canadian. But the American will want to disguise that, no, we are brothers, I mean, we are the same. But you don't say that to a Canadian. Canadian will disassociate immediately. I'm not. Please, leave me alone, I'm Canadian. So now, this is now what faces their democracy at this moment. But what to say is that they have to decide between the two capitalist leadership. They are basically the same. Ideally, they are supposed to have class opinion, the working class versus the capitalist, but it's now mixed up. So that is what their politics means. And they have many factors that on the surface will determine. I will want to concentrate more on how it affects us. It greatly affects us. And these days it affects us more than before.
How so?
You see, right now, an American government, or even by that extension UK, they can rule the world using their parliament. They can pass laws in their parliament that affects your country. For example, they even pass laws that has third-party implication. For example, if they pass a law against Cuba, that we don't like this country, we shall not trade with them. That would be okay because Cuba would say it is between me and America. But they make it third party in that their law says, for example, if you're a European Union citizen, you have an automatic passport to go to get visa to go to America. But the law says, should you reach Cuba, you lose it. So now the parliament law of America is even affecting. For example, they have a law which says, if your ship, if you say you're German, for you are okay with Cuba, America, Cuba is their affairs. The law is now saying, should you reach Cuba, dock there. Then the payment system, because money is transferred through America, it will be
Stopped.
This is now, it has third-party implication. Therefore, a government that comes in America matters a lot to us.
You remind me of the sanctions as well.
That is
sanctioned
it.
me, but even my father, my immediate family will
Yes.
not be able to travel.
So that is it, and that is why the similar law which is being used like against the speaker, it is an a British congressman knows better. It is a UK anti-corruption law, but which says that if you are deemed corrupt, then don't deal with us. Now, and yet the judgment of deeming is, the judgment is theirs.
They're
So
the ones who deem.
they're the ones who deem. And once they deem you, then don't go to our bank, don't come to our country, then don't deal with our company, then don't deal with this. And that is how you see our speaker affected. So therefore, it's not in the past traditional system where a government affairs would be a sovereign affairs. A government in America now will pass laws that actually rule a country like Kenya or Uganda or any other country. They'll decide it in a way that really captures you. So therefore, we are worried about the politics in America. For example, if you have a country, a government like Trump, for example, who will not be so much putting conditions on same-sex rights, then countries which have values that don't want same-sex will be safe. Now, if you have the Kamala party, which is so pro same-sex rights, therefore it means when they're in power, they'll use their parliament to pass laws that actually govern you. Somebody sitting in his parliament and passing a law which governs another country.
Okay.
And they die. So the politics in America matters to us because whichever government comes in power, we know that they will use their parliament, they use their power to actually legislate laws that affect us. So that is a concern.
Okay, maybe lastly, who do you feel that as you as a person, I don't want to say as NRM or government, but you as a person, who do you think you are inclined to support?
I would go for Trump. Why? You know, Trump asked this policy of America first. So this thing of America first, it makes him less appetite for foreign interference.
Yes, yes.
It makes him concentrate more on America. So he's not out there to you. So for him, America first. So that America first reduces his thirst for foreign interference in other governments by a big percent. So that is why I would support Trump, because it would less interfere into other matters. In fact, it would even take, for example, the war in Ukraine is not even very hurrying for it. He would even want it, including Israel. So he's less interested into escalation of foreign things and interfering in it. So for him, it's more introvert. America first, our interest. Of course, our interest means some foreign relations. But by percentage, if the other party is interested in outside thing by this, Trump is by this.
Oh, and there then, for you are safe as NRM. There won't be a lot of
Every country in the world is safe.
But you
Not
are
only
safe.
NRM, every country is safe because of less interference.
All right, let me come to you, Counsel Tugume. On a comment on the elections that are going to happen tomorrow. They are going to the polls as the United States. What does this election really mean to you as a person?
So this time I comment as if I'm not answering the question that was...
You can also answer it.
No, your view may be different from mine. Your view may be
You
different.
see, his views actually are completely NRM views. You know, America of recent has not been good to NRM and the colleagues. If you look at the number of NRM cadres that have been, sanctioned, it worries everybody, including himself and the rest of those who are watching and supporting NRM. He would wish, if at all they would be given even an opportunity, they would have gone and voted for Trump. because they have a lot of fear of again for Kamala Harris to come back. You know what happened recently when a general, whom I will not mention, and had to go a square mile and said, can you leave Uganda with, I don't know what happened by the way, did the man go or is still around? The ambassador of America, did he go? Ochieno, for you,
he's director of foreign relations.
He's still around.
So if he's around, I don't know.
He's around. Lately, I've met him twice. You remember in Sheraton,
Yeah,
we were together
in Sheraton.
for the other activity for the peace pledge.
Yes.
But even on Friday, we were in the Algerian embassy
So
for
does he really talk about
the 70-year celebration of
experience or-
Algerian revolution.
He doesn't talk about that experience. He doesn't. It must be a secret in his heart because it has never happened. I think he's wondering how Uganda operates. So as such, really, I really think that Democrats, they have got, you know, that kind of vigor, and I hope they are likely to win again because, you know, this lady came when nobody knew that she was to have that kind of, you know, energy. She has really given sleepless nights to their favorite. So I'm worried of what would happen. But what I know is that Democrats, actually, they have demonstrated that they really have a heart for the rest of the people. You know me, I'm the chairman of vulnerable persons in this country. So whoever attaches the vulnerable person and doesn't want intervention of anybody, I really feel bad. You know, we are now looking beyond our own because Uganda looks to have a leadership that cares a lot, that cares less, that doesn't care at all. So somebody wouldn't now blame me that I'm saying that Uganda doesn't care. So the government cares, it cares less, it cares more, at times it cares completely nothing. So that is what happens to our people, that our people have been so much neglected. Torture has been too much. When you look at the number of people that have died in this country without anybody to blame, it worries you. Look at those who died in the 1819th here, November, when people were killed during daylight. Ugandans shouldn't lose their blood. Ugandans' blood matter, and nobody cares. We need an intervention. Who is going to intervene? We believe that USA can come in, as it came in actually to ask
just
some
to add
questions.
on that,
Yes.
that particular issue.
Yes.
A survey has been conducted. I cannot point out who conducted that particular survey,
Yes.
but it's showing that the human rights violations by the police are reducing
Yes.
from the time they started to hold them individually accountable.
Sure.
That it is happening that they are now defying
Yeah.
the
Yes.
orders of their bosses because they know they are individually culpable.
Yes, sure. You know, for us who believe in Christianity, we have God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You know, you cannot only concentrate on the Father. So in general, I believe that we really need to look into some of the issues. So elections that is coming tomorrow is very important for Uganda. And some of us who believe in the democracy, you know, who believe in the rule of law, who believe in the care for the vulnerable person, somebody who really cares for Ugandans who are really suffering. We truly need a person of the Kamala's, you know, caliber, because has got that foreign intervention, that foreign look. You know, I always tell people, me, I've got 3 girls and 1 boy. And I always say, my children live in an enclosed house. I put a wall, a very nice house, let me praise myself. And then I have a car. When they are going to school, they go in the car. They eat well. I put everything in the fridge and what, because I'm a lawyer, so they have to enjoy that. But I'm not going to be their husbands. No, I'm not going to be the husband to my children. I'm not going to be a wife to my son. The children that I'm going to look after, the children that are suffering outside there, among them, there is a wife to my son. Among them, there is a husband to my daughter. And at some point, my daughter will bring someone whom I will say, which kind of man have you brought? Malnourished? small man like you. I'm sorry, you are not malnourished, but you are small. So I will just look at and say, which kind of man is this? When I never contributed anything to that person to live. So as a person who did human rights at the university, I always believe that there is a need to look and care for somebody else who is not within your home. Because at some point that person will be part of you when you never did anything. So I believe that there is need to take care of some other people as America is doing. America is not looking at itself. Harris, Kamala, together Democrats, they are not looking at only America first. No, they are looking at other people, humanity. What does other Ugandans who are suffering, what can we do for them as Americans? What can we do for the Afghanistans? What can we do? That is what we want. We don't want this kind of no selfishness. No, let us look at ourselves like what the NRM is doing. If we are winning, we have to win. They either lose or we either win or they lose. And if we win, we shall always be in power only ourselves for the last 40 years, and you want more years. So generally, let us pray for Harris Kamala and for the America to keep caring for others as they have been doing. That kind of humanity, the human rights, is a humanity for everybody. Yes, sir. I truly would wish to see Ochieno looking good as he is, together with his children. I want to look at Paul as he is, you know, and well fed, because I know what he's doing is helping other people. It can help my person when I'm not there. So as long as you have that kind of humanity, thinking about the rest,
Ubuntu,
you know, Ubuntu.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, it is very important. If Uganda had that, we would be very far away. But we are selfish. We are looking at our own self. We are looking at only when they have to say Museveni first, his family first. Then you go to the family of the what? The family of those who are related to them. Until they reach Paul. If they have not reached Paul, and the man will never survive.
Thank you so much. That is Counsel Gideon Tugume. He paints a picture of the country today. Let me come to you, Honorable Ochieno. And you're going to answer the same question they have answered. But I also wanted you to point out, because you are a global citizen, really. And I wanted you to point out on the politics of issues. Americans are standing on issues. What are you saying on abortion rights? What are you saying on Israel-Palestine conflict? Why are you talking about the economy? People are voting issues. Not here, kidogo, what have you given me? Comment on that particularly.
Why do you want to start by making me feel so jealous like that? Because even just as near here as Kenya, Kenya just has had a new deputy president in a process that tested their constitution, tested their legislature, and tested their judiciary, tested the sense of belonging of national interest, where even after a very, very rigorous and divisive elections and election results 2 years ago, Kenyans were able to rally around themselves, including around Ruto, somebody whom I terribly never liked, and I still don't like him, but he's the leader of Kenya. But of course, as an East African citizen, I've got the right to say that. But they rally around to save Kenya. So that led to the process in which there was a successful impeachment, where legislators from across the political divide saw the issues and the implications of what the relationship between the two was, meaning Ruto and Gachagua at the time, and the tone and undertones and implications of what Gachagua was trying to drag Kenya into. And they did, and it was decisive, and they've got an outcome, regardless of whether or not we like them. Further south, the only democracy that was once upon a time one of only 5 democracies. There was once upon a time when there was only Botswana, Senegal, one other country, and Uganda in the 80s that were multi-party democracies, lest you forget. There was once upon a time when this country was among the only 5 countries on the African continent that were truly multi-parties. But of course, the NRA guys were in the bush. But that has never been contested. So Botswana has an election in which the incumbent independence political party, a right-wing political party, center-right political party, by the way, of the Kama family, dominated Botswana since independence in 1966. And they, in a manner tectonic, they swept out of power, leaving them coming last, meaning the fourth out of 4 major political parties with only 4 parliamentary seats. And a massive opposition alliance comes in. What is important is that that should be headlines in Uganda. But number 2, it should also be something to be celebrated. But it also must be a lesson for people in politics. It must also be a lesson for NRA. But it must also be a sense of hope, particularly for young citizens in this country, that the future of this country is possible. But it must also be a sense of hope for people in political activism that it's possible to organize and mobilize on issues and win elections. The Botswana political party that has just lost elections had presided over a very, very stable and massively decent organized economic growth with the GDP amongst the highest on the continent, possibly about over 7,000 US dollars. Average Africa is 4. But when election campaigns took place and politics was on issues, the opposition was, 1, able to win. Number 2, the opposition leader who eventually won at a third trial. So Museveni should not have taken the people to Luwero in 1980. He should have tried at least twice before taking us to this messy thing. So those are also other lessons. But number 3, and then finally, the good news about it is that it's actually a left-leaning alliance. And you know UPC is a progressive left political party. I was privileged to know President Mugai, who handed over to Ian Khama, and of course President Masire, to whom Mugai was vice president. But they were progressive Africans, but right-wing. At the moment, there's a left-leaning alliance. Now, to the US, American election matters to everybody in the world. America is the global policeman. America is the number 1 global economy. America has got the biggest military in the world. America interferes across the world. And also America supports decisive positions around the world, including the processes in the UN. It is just very irritating that NRA now finds itself in a relation with the US in which they present as if America is headache. The US and Britain directly contributed to the NRM's coming to power by supporting forces that included guys who backed them in the bush. But number 2, the US and Britain are predominantly the 2 countries that were responsible for coining this nonsense about the new breed of African leaders, for which they gave this continent, they gave this country Museveni, they gave this country Kagame, they gave this country Meles, and they gave this country this continued strong man in Eritrea. And Africans forget that America did that. They continued to serve America until they fell out. Museveni is now the number 1 American agent. The only quarrel between Museveni and these guys is that having been treated like a spoiled kid in the 90s and latter part of the years, when I think, and having used our children for them in Somalia, our children for them in Rwanda, our children for them in the region, in exchange for military support and diplomatic support and continued guaranteed presence. Because recently Americans have sort of woken up a bit to try and push bits and pieces, Comrade Awich is able to bring out some of the issues like the anti-homosexuality issue. The anti-homosexuality issue was basically one weapon that these people used. But number 3, all political leaders in America from across the political divide, very disappointed with the Clintons. The Clintons actually have the mess that has happened in this country, both Bill and Hillary. Democrats have got a hand in this because Americans push their foreign policies when it comes to Africa, globally, generally, and it's very much about America rather than actually their political party, so it doesn't matter. So Clinton supported Museveni massively, and then followed by the Bushes until today. The only people who were a bit lukewarm with Uganda was Obama. And the Musevenis detested Obama and Obama's coming, but it's not a subject for this show. And, you know, the reasons we will not go into details. So they didn't like Obama. The irony, though, is this, that today I find it very sad that the Africans in America, the Africans on this continent, and the Africans in Uganda who support Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a misogynist. Donald Trump is a racist. It is Donald Trump who started as early as the time when Barack Obama was merely pushing as a candidate for the Democratic Party, to push the idea that Barack Obama was a Muslim, as if it's a crude sin or crime for somebody to be a Muslim. And number two, to push the idea that Obama was not born in America, basically to try and make sure that an African did not take over. Of course, it didn't work. Obama went on to take on the Democratic ticket, went on to win, and to win massively. It has actually been suggested that because of the shock that the Obama victory caused, that created right extremists to push Trump to basically counter them. And so the reason was, Obama's election was therefore as a result of the changes in the demographics that showed that Africans, meaning the minorities, Africans and Asians and others, the population was getting higher and upper. Young people generally across the world will tend to be progressives. So Africans would go towards the left, which is the Democratic Party. Women predominantly will vote softly, and so voted Obama. And so therefore are the minorities. Yes, and so because they critically did that, unless the Republicans did something radical, they were no longer going to come into power. In other words, these categories of people were going to dominate the American politics. And that really is what is going on. So unfortunately, for many Africans, they pick tiny things on Trump. There is this dogmatic nonsense about Israel, where people think that Donald Trump, one is pro-Zionism, and some interesting Christians on this continent think that the Israeli Netanyahu regime that is breaking the necks of other peoples in that place in the name of their fight, that's an open thing, is they forget that actually the Netanyahus don't like Christians. Christians are less than 3% in Israel. Yeah. And so to push support for an American leader on the basis of that shows how hypocritical we Africans are, when it comes to some of these issues. So that's one of the major things for support for Trump. And number two, it is also true, the idea of same-sex relationships and homosexuality. But the truth is, who isn't? Who isn't? Some of the Trump friends, have been presented as people who were defiling women and people involved in some of these same-sex relationships.
Yes, as you conclude.
So, unfortunately, Africans are following Trump blindly. The NRA follows Trump for strategic reasons, but also blindly because they supported John McCain against Barack Obama. And for a political organization that allegedly claims is revolutionary, it's very contradictory for a allegedly revolutionary organization to associate with extreme Zionist or extreme right-wing racist political organization, in this case, which is represented by Donald Trump. That is very contradictory. But then finally, may I hope Kamala Harris win. Not only is it because she represents political parties whose, and you talk about issues, I'll conclude, their politics will be very much about taxation. The Democrats is very much about fair taxes. It will be about immigration. Trump, if he could get his way, would throw away everybody black, including an African slave who's been a child from a slave family who's lived there for the last 300, lest you forget, because those are the facts. On immigration, progressive, taxation, on health care. Obamacare in America, health care is not like in Britain or like UPC set it up. Healthcare in America is actually one of the most expensive things. Obama tried to push it on, the Democrats pushed it from that perspective. So on the key issues, immigration, housing, the environment, including, by the way, the environment, Donald Trump does not believe in climate change. And you guys saw how this morning Kampala came to a standstill. I had to reverse because of this flooding. Flooding partly because of energy infrastructure mess, but partly because of apparent clear climate change. So may Kamala win, but one, away from the policies, Kamala is an African and Kamala is an Asian. And so what is it that Africans can't get it? That once in a while also we should have strategic positioning for which we take strategic loyalty, and so therefore we give strategic support.
We've called it strategic loyalty. 50 minutes past the top of the hour, you're still watching the Hotline Show. I am with retired Major Pollar, Awich, Counsel Gideon Tugume, and Joseph Ochieno from the Uganda People's Congress. I have another question that was sent to Charles Kazoba, but he's not here. A gentleman called Emon Ahimbisi, where you are from Gaba. Thank you so much for watching. You said politics of Kenya, comment on the lack of permanent friends and enemies. Amon from Mubende. Thank you so much.
But as I sat in for Kazoba, so I think that question comes to me. I don't know.
Yeah, in fact, it should come to you, but since he came first, but do you have, yes, NRM has permanent friends and not permanent friends and permanent enemies. Let me start with you, Honorable. Comment on the politics of not having permanent friends and permanent enemies, especially in the Kenya Republic.
Kenya, well, let me just say this before I go to Kenya. Maybe I'll do it later because it's so much in there. But just about one thing about Africans supporting Israel because we think it is Christianity. Of course, that is an error, but I don't think that is. NRM looks at the Palestinian question, which position was taken in the NAM, non-aligned movement. The position is very clear. Uganda even chairs NAM. The position is that even AU, the AU position. So Uganda takes both the AU position and the NAM position, which is pro-Palestinian, really, by far. But it is true that there's a misconception about the Zionist question, in that those who believe in Christianity erroneously think so. Because if Jesus came back now, he wouldn't be allowed in Israel. Why? Because when the Zionist movement, which basically is a Jewish movement to go back to the Mount Zion, Mount Zion in Israel. Yeah. When this movement came up, the Jews were collected from all over the world to go back to Mount Zion, on condition that you must be a Jew and you must not have changed your religion. Yeah. So a man like Jesus, who had changed from Judaism to Christianity, he started his own. A man like Karl Marx, who was a Jew, a genius, but had changed to Christianity, they would not qualify
to enter the land,
to enter Israel.
Okay.
So I just can't see how Christians can't see that. That for you to go back under the Zionist movement, you must be a Jew who must not have changed religion. If you have changed to Islam or you have changed to Christianity, then you don't go back.
And even if you don't mind, actually, that's a very important point. And actually, we need to be able to support our viewers and support our fellow citizens and to provide leadership on some of these things. That actually, even in the then event that Jesus was accepted as part of the establishment of the current Jewish establishment, for a genuine Christian who claims to be genuinely Christian today, what would they say Jesus would say? What would be Jesus' position? Jesus' position would not be the mess that is actually taking place.
It will not. But it would be on the 3%.
The problem is you people are looking at the mess on one side. This is not a mess on one side, really.
No, what do you mean? No. You see where he's going.
It's
no, I hope. I hope.
When you look at history from where it has come back, it has always been a confrontation.
Well, I thought I'm the one talking, because he's going to go us to a long thing. Yes. But all I wanted to confront was that, all I wanted was to say is that if the Africans support Israel on Christianity, they are supporting it wrongly.
Exactly.
Because the fact that they are Christians, they are excluded.
They believe that's their land.
Including Jesus. Change religion, he couldn't go back. Yes, that is the cut-off point. Yeah. That for you to, if you're a Jew in Morocco, you're a Jew in the UK, you're a Jew in Sweden, you're a Jew in Russia, for you to go back,
you have to be believing in Judaism.
You must be a Jew and practicing their religion, not Christianity.
Okay, sir.
So,
comment on this question.
the question of identity, no, not identity, non-permanent friends
Yes.
in Kenya.
In Kenya. And you also do the same here. Mr. Museveni has that policy, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies.
No.
I saw him bringing back the former gentleman. His
You see, the definition of the concept of non-permanent friends in politics ideally should be that you have a politics of interest as a country, not as individuals.
Yeah.
If you say it is politicians who don't have permanent friends or permanent enemies, that is opportunistic. It should be Kenyan or Uganda taking friendship basing on the national interest. That is ideally what permanent friends or permanent whatever should mean. But if you take it on the individual basis, which I think is coming from Kenya because of the vice president was impeached, meaning that Ruto is now not a friend to Gachagua. That is unfortunate. You see, and the Kenyan thing, this situation is painting a lot of, because some of us had thought that Kenya was implementing a democratic system which was not really developed there. Kenya went in for the what they call runner. What do they call it? Running mate.
Running mate.
Running mate ideally means somebody you can't remove. You have chosen once for all.
That's why he did it constitutionally.
You have chosen once for all.
Yes, yes.
Now, himself, Ruto, had problems with Kenyatta to the extent that even in public functions, they couldn't put his chair near the president.
Yes, sir.
But at least his friend Kenyatta didn't impeach him. Now, unfortunately for him, this man, in my opinion, appeared opportunistic. Because when the Gen Z were rising, instead of fighting together with his friend, he took off to Mombasa. No, he was even supporting the Gen Z.
He said he was sick.
And he was even against. No, he was talking bad things.
Yes.
And I think his friend now could not stomach. But his reading of the Constitution was that in the event that the president is off,
I'm taking it.
The deputy takes over. So he went openly.
Yes.
He went openly against Ruto in a very trying moment. And Ruto, unlike Kenyatta, who could contain, because Kenyatta also had issues with Ruto. But Kenyatta chose to move along with Ruto until the end. Ruto can't. And yet Ruto is on record when he was asked that what would happen if you had a problem with your deputy. He swore. He said it will never happen. And that is why in English they said, never say never. Then we said, but then why did you invent the word if it is not supposed to be used? So it caught up with Ruto. So the question of politics of no friends, really we should only encourage it at national interest. If we talk of individual politicians, then we are actually practicing opportunism, which is unfortunate.
We take a break right now at just 1 minute to 8 p.m. When we come back, we shall listen in from other panelists. Then we shall delve into the topic of discussion today or tonight. We look at the National Coffee Amendment Bill. It is going to be tabled for the third and maybe last reading on Wednesday. And of course, President Museveni has invited the NRM caucus to Kisozi to make a decision on this particular issue. Continue sending in your messages at Digitalk TV at The Alternative Uganda. Let's take a break.